Based organizer and national union representative for CWA for close to 30 years, and was at the recent CWA National Convention. I'd say the most interesting thing that happened was that a group of us helped a local union officer run for national office, a thing that's not done very often in major unions. In CWA, it was the first time there'd been such a challenge since the 1950s. Our candidate for National Secretary Treasurer was a fellow named Don Trementozzi, who's a Verizon local president in New England, the leader of a local that I've worked with for about 30 years. And he's a member of the Regional Bargaining Committee trying to negotiate a contract with Verizon that expires next weekend that covers about 45,000 IBEW and CWA members in New York, New England, and New Jersey, and several other mid-Atlantic states. And Don's campaign was really strongest as an opposition candidacy. He was running against a quasi-incumbent, a longtime national union staffer who was moving over, she hoped, from executive vice president to secretary treasurer of the national union. Don ran kind of on a labor notes Association for Union Democracy platform, was very critical of the lack of coordination in the last round of AT&T bargaining, AT&T being the largest CWA telecom employer, having a kind of national contract that unraveled in the course of bargaining in 2009 and 2010. So he ran critical of that, called for possibly switching from conventional election of top officers to the referendum vote method that's used in the Teamsters and Steelworkers and a few other unions. On the question of making the union more proactive in the way that Steve was just suggesting, he proposed that money be diverted from the union's political action spending, i.e. donations to politicians, and put into labor radio ventures like Workers Independent News based in Madison, Wisconsin, labor video projects, beefing up the union's own publications, and utilizing the experience of those CWA members who are part of the Newspaper Guild or the Broadcast Technicians Union, NABIT, to do more labor-oriented, workplace-oriented investigative reporting. The kind of journalism, as Steve and Mike both mentioned, which is not supported much or really at all at this point by the mainstream media, and needs to be much more heavily supported by the unions themselves. Who else is theoretically interested in workers, their lives, job problems, workplace trends that are affecting millions of union members and non-union workers in this country. So we tried to raise this this whole host of issues in a very diverse amalgamated union. CWA has about 500,000 members, but one of the challenges is at this point only about half of them are telephone workers. Through mergers and affiliations, the union also includes the Flight Attendants Association and the Guild, a manufacturing union called the IUE, the Broadcast Technicians, and various other smaller groups. So breaking into some of those other constituencies proved difficult. We got about 25% of the vote in a delegate body of about 1,600, and that probably represented about 40% of the telecom locals represented at the convention. So it was a pretty successful first in a long time run by a local union officer, raising some important issues, including this issue, and I would strongly agree with Steve about this, that if the unions themselves aren't willing to shift resources into some of the kinds of initiatives that he described, as well as fighting campaigns more effectively, like the Huffington Post boycott, we're certainly not going to improve the standing of labor in the media, and we have to have the willingness and the commitment of resources necessary to build an independent, labor and community-oriented set of media alternatives.